recently started a new job in a large local department store. This store has a huge basement where empty shelves are stored and overstocked items, such as large ficus trees and so on. Many employees refuse to go down there alone at night. I found out why. One evening, I went down to the basement to drop something off. There is a very long hallway between two huge rooms down there. I walked to the far room, going through the hallway. As I neared the end of the hall, I thought I heard the click-click of high heels. I turned, saw nothing, and walked on. I was standing at the counter down there doing some work and heard the sound again. I looked, and I swear, I saw what looked like to be a woman literally walking into the ficus trees and disappearing. Yes, I saw high heels. Well, I went upstairs rather quickly. After talking with many coworkers, I discovered they all had the same experience. Come to find out, the woman who used to handle the incoming trucks died suddenly about 2 years ago, and yes, she always wore high heels to work. The woman who replaced her main management moved the warehouse desk upstairs, as she always felt so creepy sitting downstairs. Did the former freight manager love her job so much that she hates to leave? Who knows? I just know I've joined the ranks of, I'm not going down there by myself. In 3 months, my husband and I will have been married a year. A few months after we're married, we moved to this house here in Minneapolis, and since we have gotten here, I've never felt comfortable. My husband's best friend was kind enough to let us share this huge house with him after some of my new in-laws sold the house out from under us and kind of left us standing. Anyway, I have an extreme fear of basements, and when I say extreme, I mean extreme. Our washer and dryer are in the basement, so come time to do laundry, it took me weeks to build up the courage, telling myself you are 30 years old, grow up. So my first venture to this basement, I swallow the lump in my throat and continue on with my mission. Under our stairs, there's like a triangle place that most people leave open to store things. Only on these stairs, the entire area is blocked in, like boarded up, so I tried not to notice, but my fear had me on my toes. I was alone, except for our 2 pit bulls who are larger than average, so you would think I would have no fear. As I was putting the clothes in the washer, our male pit comes downstairs and was lying on the floor beside me. While I loaded the washer as fast as I could, he suddenly gets up and goes into the spare room in the basement and starts this deep growling he only uses when he is protecting. Just like kids, you get to know their different sounds. Anyway, I looked up from what I was doing and saw something out of the corner of my eye that looked like another dog's hindquarters in the doorway to the room. In this area, we have a lot of idiots who think it is cool to fight their pits, and we have ours for family dogs, only they are loved and protected, just like children, but they know it is their job to protect us. Several people have approached us wanting to fight our dogs, and we always turn them away, so they get angry. So the first thing that comes into my mind was someone found a way to get one of these fighting pits into my house, so I panicked and grabbed the pipe beside the washer. As I went to approach the other dog, my male came bolting out of the room and straight up the stairs. I got this feeling someone was behind me, so I ran after him. When my husband got home, I told him what happened, and he finally broke down and told me there's some stories to this house, and one is for sure that right before his best friend moved in here, some idiots kept a dog on a 12-inch chain. It was attached to the wall downstairs in the spare room, and sometimes our dogs seemed to see him. Then he says he might as well tell me the rest that goes with this house. Seems that back in World War II, an older lady had lived here and had fallen madly in love with this house. Her husband had been killed at war, and she was just living alone, and she had made the request to be buried with this house. I thought he was crazy, as he told me to wait, and I would see things. I'm a skeptic, and I made this clear. I was sitting on the couch one afternoon, facing the stairway, which has no windows, no reflections, no nothing. There is a window on the landing, and one at the bend, but the stairway itself has no windows. I looked up at my husband to say something, because I had just seen him walk down the stairs, and something was floating down my stairs. Wasn't a form, just a haze, Just something was there. I told my husband again. After that, things have only been worse. I was sick in bed, sitting up one night, when I felt something rub my back. Thought it was my kitten, but it was not. So I sat back down, and it happened 3 more times, like someone was trying to massage my back with tiny hands. Instead of crying out to my hubby, which I do so often, I just turned on my light and fell asleep. The next morning, I told my husband, and he said something had been missing with them. He let the dogs out. When they came in, he shut and locked the door. We never leave our doors unlocked, no matter home or not. Then he sat back down in the family room to finish his show, and he felt freezing air. When he got up to check the door, it was standing wide open. I should know, to lock this door, you need a deadbolt. I said to my husband, I don't care if anything is here. I don't mind sharing a house. I just don't want to be touched again or see anything else. Being touched by something not there is too scary. It has happened to me in my sleep, in the tub, getting ready for work, a lot of times. Since I've said that, I don't see too many things. After the thing I've seen in the dining room on all fours, I'm thankful. Now, however, I heard someone outside my bedroom door whispering, making those noises, and a woman's voice kind of moaning like she is tired of something. There's so many things I could go on about. I just wanted to know I'm not the only one experiencing these things. Thank you for your time. When my mom was 17 and her twin brothers were 15, they lived with my great-grandma, whom I call Nanny. My Nanny lives in this old house that once belonged to her mother and her mother's pet bird, who had both passed just 8 months before. Her mother because of sickness, and the bird because no one really paid any attention to it after her mom died. I must say myself that this house is weird. It is shaped like a barn, and it's 2 stories high. My mother's incident happened on the 2nd story. My mother was downstairs watching TV, while her brothers were upstairs asleep in their bunk beds. This was around 11 p.m. My nanny wasn't home yet. She had been working late. While my mother was sitting on the sofa, debating whether to go to bed or wait for Nanny, she heard a loud screech that sounded like her great-grandma's bird. She shrugged it off and got up to get a snack. From the kitchen, you can clearly see the twins' bedroom. She was walking towards the kitchen and looked up to see the twins' light on in the room and went up to investigate. When she got to the room, the light switch was flipped down, but the light was on. She flipped the switch a couple times, and the light still would not go out. About this time, she heard the TV downstairs get very loud. She ran to the stairs and looked down and didn't see anything and walked back to the twins' room. The light still had not went off, and it was still flipped down. My mother then heard her deceased great-grandmother's voice say, "Scotty, Scotty, wake up." Scotty, who was on the top bunk, then started rolling towards the side of the bunk bed, opposite of the wall where the rail should have been, but he refused to put it there. He was getting ready to roll off when my Uncle Stephen, who was on the bottom bunk bed, dead asleep, threw a body pillow from the side of him and onto the floor. Not a second later, Scotty rolled off and hit the pillow. The light went off, the TV turned down, and my mother, who nearly passed out, heard the bird screech again and heard her great-grandma say, "Calm down, Femi," the bird's name. Hello. I thought of sending a peculiar occurrence that happened to me, but I hadn't found the right place. Here goes. My grandma was diagnosed with cancer in 1996. She was treated, and we all thought she was cured. In my case, I really didn't know much about cancer, and when the doctor said that the cancer was out, I never thought it would come back. In December 1999, I was living out of town. It had been a month since I had seen my grandma, a really long time for us. I was supposed to come pick her up and take her to my house for the holidays. On the 18th, she felt sick and went to the hospital. I arrived on the 19th, and she still wanted to go back to my house for Christmas, so against what the doctor thought, she checked out. Her bladder was no longer working, and she felt weak all the way. To be fair, now that I'm writing this, It sounds that she was pretty bad already. I always thought it was going to pass. I mean, she had overcome cancer, hadn't she? I know, it was stupid of me. But anyway, after an 8-hour trip, we arrived to our destination. I had to take her to the hospital. She stayed there until the 31st, and Aunt and myself would take turns in staying with her day and night. All through this, I thought she was still okay. On the 30th, my grandma had been in a great mood. She had been joking and playing with me all day, and so when my aunt arrived, I headed home. I would arrive at home and start cleaning and preparing next day's supper. I was pretty occupied with what I was doing, and my 2 children were sleeping. As I was mopping the kitchen, the back door had a sort of mirrored glass. I was in front of this door when I felt someone walk behind me. I looked up and I saw a shadow walk by. The feeling was more intense than what I actually saw. What went through my head as I saw the shadow was the memory of my grandpa, deceased for 5 years at the time. I dropped the mop, forgot about everything, ran up the stairs, and cuddled in between my sleeping children. I would love to say that when I thought it was my grandpa, I felt at peace. I was scared, honestly. I woke up at around 6 in the morning to the smell of roses. My aunt phoned at 7 to let me know that my grandma had fallen into a coma. All this day, the smell of roses persisted, and I would smell it everywhere. She died on January 1st, 2000. She never made it out of the coma. Unfortunately, the cancer had invaded most of her organs. I know it's not really scary, but it's the only experience I could not explain logically. I've never read of anything that has to do with the smell of roses. If anyone has had a similar experience, please let me know so I can understand this better. Hi there, my name is Phil. I used to live in a bungalow in Surrey for 13 years with my parents. The property was built in 1953, and we think that it was built on an old forest. We moved there when I was 13 years old, and I'm 29 now, and I've moved out, but things still happen. My parents have now sold the property on. Anyway, when we moved in, we wasn't told that the previous owner had suddenly died in my mom's and dad's bedroom from a heart attack. We were there about 3 months before we started noticing odd things, like objects that were put in safe places we would find like elsewhere, like keys and pictures would move, strange cold areas that normally would be in the hallway, creaking floorboards at night, and strange shadows that the cat would sometimes avoid. The cat would stop dead in its tracks and not go into that room. Instead, would just sit there and stare at nothing as far as we could see. These things continued for about 3 years, but we got used to them. But we had the odd visitor refusing to go into the bathroom to wash their hands, as for some reason was never very warm, including the summer months. A chill would run down your spine, and you wouldn't like being in there for very long. I remember one morning, it was a Sunday. I was 16 at the time. I was lying in bed relaxing. Now, I was definitely awake because the TV was on and it was 7:30 a.m. I was lying on my back, just deciding whether to get up or not, when the cat jumped out of the bed at a very high speed and ran from the room. Just then, I felt this pressure on my chest as if someone was pushing down on me. I couldn't breathe that well. I couldn't shout out for help, nor could I move, as if I was paralyzed. This must have lasted for about maybe 2 minutes, then whatever it was lifted off of me. I jumped out of bed and went into the kitchen where my mom was making breakfast. She said I looked very pale and white, and when I told her what had happened, she told me that she had a similar thing happen to her, only that she felt as if someone was trying to strangle her, and at the same time, I told a friend of mine, who at the time was heavily into the paranormal, and he suggested that the person who died of a heart attack in the house was feeling something bad, and he wanted us to feel the same thing. He wanted us to feel the pain he went through, but I wasn't sure about this thought, as I think that someone or something in that house wanted us out. A few strange things happened for us the next few years, but generally it was quietish. But things started happening to me again. When I was about 20ish, I had the same experience as someone pushing down on me at the same time as before. Also, I'm sure it used to follow me about, is sometimes I would get this feeling of someone being right behind me. I then saw a dark, tall, gray-haired man standing in the hall when I came home late one night, and when I said who's there, because my mom and dad were on holiday at the time, it disappeared in front of my eyes. Naturally, I didn't stay there that night, as I was by myself. I then started seeing faces in the wall, shadows moving at night, doors blowing open, even though there wasn't any kind of wind around. So a friend of my dad's, who was a born-again Christian, brought a clergy around to move through the house and said prayers in each room. He didn't like the hall, bathroom, or my mom's and dad's bedroom whilst in this room because he had a picture thrown at him which smashed against the wall. He then left simply a bit shaken, but not sure about what quite happened. Things were bad for a while, but then got better. I stayed another 6 years in that house, but had to leave as didn't quite feel happy there. My mom and dad have now sold the property onto someone else, and naturally, we didn't inform them of the problems there. My old neighbors have said that the new owners have asked who the dark, tall, gray-haired man is, and we just say that it is the previous owner who died there, but they are not sure. I was just wondering what sort of ghosts we had there, and why it has not found peace, and why it was not happy. Maybe you could answer these questions. I have a best friend named Mandy, and she has always said that there was a ghost named Jack that watches over her, and at the time she told me this, I was about 9 years old. I was invited to her house on a Saturday just for the day, but I ended up staying there till after dinner. She told me Jack likes to hang around in the basement of her house and likes to open this old freezer door. I never thought about it until we went down to the basement to play. I felt like someone was watching me. Later, we went upstairs and her mother told us dinner was ready and told us we were eating outside. So before I went for dinner, I told my friend Mandy that I'll be out in a second, and she said okay, and she went out to have dinner. I forgot my toys downstairs, and I remembered when I looked downstairs, the lights were off and the freezer door was wide open. At this time, I was thinking of whether or not I should go down there, so I just stood there for about a minute. All of a sudden, I heard someone call my name. It was like a soft whisper voice. I thought it was my friend Mandy. I knew she was outside with her parents having dinner, but I thought maybe she came back to get something. So I went downstairs. I looked all over for her, but couldn't find her anywhere. Now, I felt very scared, and I grabbed my toy and ran upstairs, thinking someone was watching every move I made. I went outside and saw my friend Mandy and her parents out there having dinner. I didn't want to bring up anything about it in front of my friend's parents. So after dinner, I told my friend Mandy what I heard and felt, and she said that it was our ghost Jack. Then she started to bring up how Jack communicates to her, and she sometimes sees him walking around down there. She doesn't seem to be startled at this, because she believes that Jack is there to watch over her. This past September, my sister and I visited this place. I've noticed it is no longer on your website. The place is truly haunted. I'm no ghost hunter, but we thought we would give it a try on our vacation. This place I'm referring to, of course, is Knoxville, Tennessee's Evil and Copper Ridge Road. When we got there, no sooner than we got out of the car and crossed the street, I was overcome with fear. We went into the graveyard and was looking around. I looked at the building and saw a glowing light. I just thought it was from a street light on the other side of the building, but my niece was standing beside me and never saw it. I was taking some pictures of headstones when my sister started running towards me, yelling, "Did you hear that?" I then proceeded to tell her that I didn't hear anything, so we all ran scared, and she said she even heard a dog growling. We left and went back to our motel. We got brave and decided to go back. When we got back, we went into the building and not the graveyard. This time, it was like I couldn't breathe. After a few minutes, I was okay. We walked around the outside of the building. My sister wanted to go inside, but only if one of us went with her. I said I wasn't going in there, so we ended up back in the graveyard. We start looking around again, when we noticed something really strange. What we saw in the distance of the graveyard, all the way in the back, was the faint image of a black shadowy figure approaching us. I started yelling, "Run, it's going to get you." Everybody sees this thing, so we run for my car and refuse to get back out. Now, my sister, for whatever reason, wanted to get back out there and investigate, out of curiosity, I guess, but I told her not to go out there. We drove away, and that was that. Hey guys, it's Phantom here, and I just wanted to comment on one of the stories. I always think it's funny when people refer to husbands as hubby, like a Hubble telescope. It's like, that's what I think of. Like, when people say hubby, I think of a Hubble telescope. I don't know why, but I think I tripped up on my words, and I'm not going to edit that out because, why would I do that? So, you can share, like, comment, and subscribe because, I don't know, I don't make any sense and I don't intend to. So, as long as I sound like a broken record and I refer to you guys as, amazing people who appreciate my nonsense, then we can go farther than the ocean we can see. Yeah, see, I don't even know what I'm saying. So I propose a challenge to you guys. If you have a hubby and you call them hubby and you refer to him as hubby, you should turn to him and say, "Hey, Hubble telescope." I guess. I know if my wife said that to me, I'd be like, "Oh my gosh," and I'd fall for her instantly again. Well, I mean, that's probably why I don't have a wife or a girlfriend. Because, Hubble telescopes are not what you referred to your lover as, that kind of thing. Okay, yeah. Okay, guys, comment, like, subscribe, share. I love you guys. I'll definitely see you in the next video, and maybe without a Hubble telescope, or calling your lover a telescope. Yeah, I mean, that could be a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. I'm just gonna go, guys. Good night.